Does God like men more than women? The Bible, after all, is patriarchal, meaning oriented around men, written by men, chronicling the events of men. Oh, it's inspired by God, our Bible, but it's written by men almost exclusively. Well, except for one important day in the life of God's plan. Because you see, early that first Easter morning, when a few people went to anoint properly Jesus' body just hanging on a crucifying cross this past Friday, guess what? The people God chose were all women to be the first people to witness Jesus' miraculous resurrection. All women. Well, at least as told by all four Gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Let me explain. But before I do, hello, I'm Reverend Paul Tuttle, a retired Presbyterian minister, and I'm up here in the praise band in Community Church in Berlin. Every fourth week I share a little bit for our daily devotionals, and this is my week. Let's start today, Monday, with the Gospel of Mark, the first and therefore the oldest of the written Gospels. So I'm going to ask you to turn to it, Mark chapter 16, verses 1 to 8, and follow along by my comments. Go ahead, get your Bible, I'll wait. All women, the first to experience an empty tomb, yet differently and uniquely in all four gospel accounts that we're going to cover the next few days. Let's start today. Mark 16, 1 to 8. Tomorrow we'll look at Matthew 28, 1 through 8. Mark 16, 1 to 8. When the Sabbath was over, that's Friday about 6 o'clock to Saturday at 6 o'clock, and Jewish people can't do anything. But once it was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James the Lesser, whose husband was Alphaeus, Luke 6:15. And a third woman, Salome. She was the wife of Zebedee, who had the twin boys James and John. She asked in Matthew the 20th chapter, could her two sons sit one on the right and one on the left? You can look it up in Matthew 20. So Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the Less, and Salome previously bought spices so that they could go after the Sabbath and anoint Jesus' dead body, prepare it for its proper permanent burial. Oh, they've anointed before. They knew what spices to get. And my guess is these three women were very accustomed and used to preparing bodies. And so very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, note that. The sun is already written in Mark. Sunrise. They came to the tomb. And they were saying to each other, talking on the way, as unfortunately people do, particularly women, they were gossiping, well, who's going to roll the stone away from the entrance for us? They didn't think about it beforehand. They weren't there to see a resurrection or a miracle. They were there just to prepare the body. So, talking like this, they looked up, they saw the stone had already been rolled away. And they noted it was a very large stone, very perplexing. Going into the tomb, they saw a young man, not an angel, a young man in a white robe seated on the right side. And And they were startled. They wondered about, why is a young man here? They wondered perhaps about their own safety. He said, "Don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth. You're looking for the man from Nazareth who was crucified just this past Friday." Well, how did they know? How did he know that, this man? How did they know what they were looking for? If they were looking for the body of Jesus of Nazareth. "He has been raised," the man said. "He isn't here. Look for yourselves with your own eyes. Here's the place where they laid him." So they looked down and saw with their own eyes and made sure they were hearing this young man properly. Because he continued, "Go, therefore, now, go, tell his disciples, and especially tell Simon Peter." Well, why was Simon Peter singled out? "Go and tell all the disciples, especially Peter, that Jesus is going ahead of all of you into Galilee. And you will see him there, just as he told you before." Did they remember that Jesus said that he was going to meet them after he died? They can't remember. Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the Lesser, or Salome, the mother of the twins, they couldn't remember what Jesus said. And so, overcome with terror and dread means not wanting to face something, knowing something is there. When we dread something, we just don't want to face it. And so these three women fled from the tomb trembling. They were unfamiliar. This was incredulous. They were not primed and ready. They weren't expecting anything like this to happen. And so the women said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. They didn't do what this young man suggested. They didn't tell the disciples. It's Mark, the 16th chapter. If it was just up to Mark, the 16th chapter, we never would have heard. For the women were quiet and scared, afraid and quiet. Let's tune in tomorrow to Matthew, the 28th chapter, for the women and the events are slightly different. Hope you can tune in tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll deal with Matthew, the 28th chapter. Have a good day.